Picture this, Toledo, Ohio, Tuesday night, October 7th, 2025. It's late. That quiet hour when most people are settling in for the night. Doors locked, feeling safe in their own homes. A man on Booth Bay Drive is upstairs, probably scrolling on his phone or watching TV, just normal Tuesday night stuff. Then he hears it. Bang! The sound of his front door being kicked in. Not knocked on, not jimmied open, kicked in. Forcefully. Now let me paint you a picture of what happens next. This man hears someone breaking into his house, and he does what most of us would do. He runs downstairs to see what the hell is happening. But here's detail number one that makes this story unforgettable. In his panic, in his rush to protect his home, he doesn't stop to throw on any clothes. That's right, he's completely naked. Vulnerable doesn't even begin to describe it. Now I have a question here, because he's completely naked. Was he in there with a woman? Why is he completely naked? Was he about to get in the shower? Because even when I lived alone, I didn't just walk around my apartment completely naked. I always felt like I'm gonna trip and snag myself on something, you know what I mean? Anyway, back to the story. At the bottom of the stairs, he comes face to face with someone he knows. Jeanita Hopings, 45 years old, his girlfriend, or ex-girlfriend. The reports are unclear. She's 5'6", 160 pounds, and she's not there to talk. She's holding something in her hand, and to this day we don't know what it was. Every police report, every document just says unknown instrument. Think about that. Something sharp enough, precise enough to do what she did next, but investigators either never found it or never identified it. Now I need to warn you here, because what I'm about to describe is disturbing, and men, brace yourselves because this will mess you up, but it's what happened. Jeanita Hopings attacks him with his mystery weapon, and she doesn't go for his chest, his face, his arms. She goes lower. She slashes his sack with such force, such precision, that she cuts it wide open. The police report, and I'm quoting directly here, stated that his ball was clearly exposed as the result of the laceration. Now by exposed, I mean the nut out of the sack completely. Now let that sink in for a moment. This man is standing naked in his own home, and someone he knew, someone he'd been intimate with, has just mutilated him in the most personal, most vulnerable way imaginable. You can imagine what that scene looked like. The victim manages to call 911, and he's rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. Can you imagine that ride, that conversation with the paramedics? What happened to you? My girlfriend kicked the door in like the popo and cut my open. Meanwhile, Hopings vanishes into the night. The next day, October 8th, Toledo police issue an arrest warrant. They're looking for her on charges of felonious assault and aggravated burglary. This is serious stuff. Felonious assault with serious bodily harm, that's potentially 5 years in prison. But here's where things get interesting. And by interesting, I mean completely bizarre. 2 days later, Friday morning on October 10th, Hopings walks into the police station and turns herself in. No drama, no chase, just walks in like she's returning a library book. She goes before a judge that same day. Now you'd think someone who broke into a house and literally slashed a man's beanbag open would be held on serious bail, right? Maybe $50,000, $100,000? Nope, she was released on her own recognizance. That means no bail. $0, just a promise to show up in court and an ankle monitor. Oh, and a no contact order with the victim because apparently she needed to be officially told not to go near that guy whose testicle that she just exposed to open air. The preliminary hearing is set for October 16th. The prosecutor's ready. The charges are filed. Felonious assault in the 4th degree, aggravated burglary. This should be a slam dunk case, right? Breaking and entering, severe bodily harm, hospital records, medical evidence. There's this mugshot going around of Hopings smiling, actually smiling, but plot twist within a plot twist. That photo, it's from 2012, a different arrest entirely. October 16th comes, the preliminary hearing, the victim doesn't show up. Okay, that happens. Victims of domestic violence often get scared, have second thoughts. The prosecutor asks for a continuance. The judge grants it. They'll try again. October 28th, 2025, the second chance for the preliminary hearing. The victim doesn't show up again. And just like that, it's over. The prosecutor throws up their hands. No victim, no testimony, no case. All charges against Jeanita Hopings are dismissed, dropped, done. This woman, who allegedly broke into a man's home, attacked him while he was naked and defenseless, and cut his genitals so severely that his was hanging out, walks free. No conviction, no jail time, not even a trial. And the victim, we don't even know his name. He's disappeared from the public record, living somewhere with the physical and psychological scars of that October night, having chosen silence over justice. Why didn't he show up? Fear, love, shame? Did they reconcile? Did she threaten him? We'll never know. I'm assuming he just didn't want the embarrassment of being that guy. But I want you to remember this case because it's going to make our next story hit even harder. Hello, strangers. Welcome back to the Strange Bar and Grill. I'm your host, JP. You just heard a strange true story, and I got one more coming up, plus one bonus story. But I won't hold you. Let's jump right in. Alright, take a breath, clear your mind, because this next story is going to make you question everything about how we interact with strangers. Dallas, Texas, Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. The same night as the Toledo attack, but 12 hours earlier. It's 1 p.m., broad daylight. The Wheatland Town Crossing Shopping Center in southeast Oak Cliff. Busy afternoon. People everywhere. Cecilia Simpson, 41 years old, is out shopping with her 20-year-old daughter. Just a mother-daughter shopping trip. They're at Five Below. You know that store where everything's $5 or less? Probably picking up some phone cases or candy or something. They finish shopping, and as they're leaving, Cecilia does something that millions of us do every single day without thinking. Something your mama taught you to do. Something that's just basic human decency. She holds the door open for the person behind her. That person is 22-year-old Keona Hampton. She walks through the door Cecilia is holding, and nothing. No thank you, no nod, no acknowledgement. Just walks through like Cecilia is an automatic door. Now, we've all been there, right? You hold the door open for somebody and they just blow right past you like you don't exist. It's annoying, it's rude. Most of us just ignore it. Some might mutter something under their breath, but ultimately you just move on with your day. Not Cecilia. She says something. We don't know exactly what. The witnesses couldn't hear the specific words, but she calls Hampton out on it. And Hampton doesn't apologize, doesn't say, "Oh, sorry, thank you." Instead, they get into it, right there in the Five Below doorway, arguing, getting loud. Cecilia's daughter trying to pull her mom away. Other shoppers doing that thing where they pretend not to stare, like they're shopping, they're looking at something, but they're really listening in and totally staring at you. Finally, they separate. Cecilia and her daughter head to their car. Argument over. Right, wrong. Cecilia and her daughter drive across the parking lot to PetSmart. Same shopping center, maybe 200 yards away. They park, walk inside, probably trying to shake off that weird confrontation. But as they're walking in, the daughter notices something. She grabs her mom's arm. That woman from Five Below, she's following us, she says. Sure enough, there's Keona Hampton, walking toward PetSmart, walking with purpose. Cecilia and her daughter go inside and, this is crucial, they immediately find an employee. They say, "Hey, there's a woman following us. She's about to come in here. We had an argument at another store." The employee nods, keeps an eye out. But what are they gonna do? It's a public store. They can't ban someone for maybe following someone else. I guess they could, but not without actual cause. They would have to witness something. They would have to witness something happening. But Hampton enters PetSmart. Inside the pet store, surrounded by dog toys and cat trees and families picking out goldfish, Hampton doesn't go shopping. She goes straight to Cecilia and her daughter. But here's where it gets weird. She doesn't go after Cecilia. She starts arguing with the daughter, the 20-year-old who didn't even say anything at Five Below. They're going at it, the voices raised, other customers grabbing their kids and moving to different aisles, employees trying to figure out if they should call security. Then Hampton leaves. Cecilia and her daughter exhale. It's over. The crazy woman left. They can finish their shopping. About 5 minutes pass, maybe 10. The door chimes. Keona Hampton's back. This time, she goes straight for Cecilia, not the daughter, Cecilia. And now it's not just yelling. They're in each other's faces, fingers pointing, that type of energy where everyone in the store knows it's about to be some furniture moving up in there, so everyone's looking. An employee has to step in. Ladies, I'm going to need you all to leave. All of you, now. So they're escorted out. Cecilia and her daughter walk to their car. Keona Hampton follows, but keeps some distance. They should have driven away right then, should have just left, but as Cecilia and her daughter are getting in their car, they hear a loud thud. Hampton throws her drink at their car. Oh hell no. Cecilia gets back out of the car. Her daughter saying, "Mom, don't, just let it go." But Cecilia's had enough. This woman followed them to a second store, came back twice to confront them, and now she's throwing things at their car? Cecilia walks over to Hampton. They're face to face in this parking lot. It's 1:30 in the afternoon. Families walking by with their carts, kids in car seats. A normal Tuesday at the shopping center. The argument turns physical. They're fighting, like actually fighting. Cecilia striking Hampton multiple times, yelling, "Leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone." And then Hampton reaches into her waistband. She pulls out a weapon, something that goes bang. A 27-year-old ER nurse is walking out of the PetSmart at this exact moment. She sees everything. Later, she'll tell police everything went quiet for a second, like the whole parking lot held its breath. Then out of nowhere, bang, bang, bang. 3 shots, broad daylight. Parking lot full of people. Cecilia falls. She's been hit multiple times. Hampton doesn't even run. She doesn't panic. She just walks away. The weapon's still visible in her hand. She walks to her car, a black 2005 Ford 500, and drives away like she just finished grocery shopping. The daughter screams. The nurse runs over, starts CPR immediately. She's trained for this. She's saved lives before. The daughter is on her knees next to her mother, begging her to stay alive. Paramedics arrive. They load Cecilia into the ambulance. The daughter climbs in with her. They race to Methodist Central Hospital. At 2:47 p.m., roughly an hour after she held the door open for a stranger, Cecilia Simpson is gone, no longer with us. But here's where this story diverges from our first one completely. Hampton might have driven away calm, but Dallas PD was already on it. Surveillance cameras caught everything: her car, her license plate, her face. They've got video from inside PetSmart of both confrontations. They've got cell phone footage of the actual incident. Detectives track her to an apartment complex on John West Road. By 6 p.m., undercover officers spot her on her balcony, wearing the exact same clothes from the incident. At 7:45 p.m., not even 6 hours after she pulled the trigger, police conduct a traffic stop on Hampton's vehicle. She's arrested without incident. At Dallas Police Headquarters, she waives her rights and talks. She admits to the argument at Five Below. She admits to following them to PetSmart, going into the store twice, throwing the bottle, fighting with Cecilia. She admits it all. Her defense: she was just trying to get Simpson away from her, so she followed her to all these stores to get her away from her. How does that make sense? Right now, today, as you're listening to this, Keona Hampton sits in Dallas County Jail, charged with murder. No bond set. She's looking at life in prison. All because someone didn't say thank you. That's it. That's what started it all. A held door, an expected courtesy that wasn't given, 2 words that weren't said. Cecilia Simpson passed away because she expected basic manners and couldn't let it go. Her daughter watched her mother fade away because of a social nicety. A woman is now motherless because someone couldn't just say thanks. Let me know what you all think of these stories in the comment section. But make sure to stick around because I have a bonus story, one that some of you may have heard before if you've been watching my channel for a while. But I re-edited the video and I think it's a real interesting story. It's kind of mind-blowing actually, and literally. Imagine waking up with a splitting headache, your memories a jumbled mess, and a nagging feeling that something is terribly wrong. What began as a typical lover's quarrel would spiral into a nightmarish ordeal, blurring the lines between victim and survivor, memory and deception. As we delve into this harrowing tale, we'll unravel a web of lies, abuse, and a bullet that refused to be the final word. Now, this isn't the plot of some Hollywood thriller. This is the true story of Nicole Gordon, a woman who survived the unthinkable and uncovered a chilling truth that had been hiding in plain sight. On a fateful evening in late May 2017, Nicole Gordon's world was shattered, both figuratively and literally. The 40-year-old woman's memory of that night was fragmented like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle scattered across her mind. She could recall snippets of a heated argument, a deafening noise, the sound of glass breaking, and the sensation of shards striking her face. But after that, a blank slate. When Nicole regained consciousness, she found herself in an unfamiliar setting, the back seat of her boyfriend's car. Through her blurred vision, she could make out the silhouette of Jerrontae Cain, her partner in his late 30s, occupying the driver's seat. But before she could fully process the situation, darkness enveloped her once more. The next time Nicole's eyes fluttered open, she was in a different location altogether, propped up with pillows in the spare bedroom of Cain's mother's house. Confused and disoriented, she inquired about what had transpired. Miss Cain, with a seemingly concerned demeanor, explained that Nicole had been in a car accident during a heated argument with her son. The impact, she claimed, had rendered Nicole unconscious and sent fragments of the driver's side window flying into her face. While Nicole slept, Miss Cain had apparently taken it upon herself to tend to a rather serious wound on the left side of Nicole's head, a deep gash right above her left eyebrow. Despite the severity of her injuries, Nicole found herself wondering why she wasn't in a hospital. The sight of her soaked shirt only amplified her confusion and concern. Over the following days, the elderly Miss Cain continued to care for her son's girlfriend, adamantly refusing to let Nicole seek professional medical attention. For many, this would have immediately set off alarm bells. It was reminiscent of a scenario straight out of Stephen King's Misery, where a devoted fan holds a writer captive under the guise of care. However, for Nicole, this wasn't an unfamiliar situation. Throughout her tumultuous relationship with Jerrontae, she had learned, through painful experience, that seeking medical help wasn't an option. The fear of nurses reporting her bruises and black eyes to the authorities loomed large, as it would only incur further violence from her abusive partner. The unspoken rule was clear: keep quiet and let the wounds heal on their own. And so, trapped in this cycle of abuse and silence, that's precisely what she did. As the days turned into weeks, Nicole struggled to piece together the events of that fateful night. The fragments of memory were there, but they refused to coalesce into a coherent timeline, with the recollection hazy at best and completely blank at worst. She had no choice but to rely on the accounts provided by Jerrontae and his mother. But this wasn't the only issue plaguing her. The alleged crash had left Nicole with lasting problems that only seemed to worsen as time went on. Her short-term memory began to falter. Her speech became increasingly slurred, and she found herself battling unbearable headaches on a daily basis. It wasn't until a friend came to visit her at home about a month after the incident that the gravity of Nicole's condition became apparent. The friend was shocked by Nicole's deteriorated state. Her slurred speech and inability to follow a simple conversation were clear indicators that her problems extended far beyond what could be remedied by an elderly woman armed with only chicken soup and rubbing alcohol. Alarmed and concerned, the friend insisted that Nicole seek proper medical attention. On June 25th, 2017, nearly a month after the incident, Nicole was finally admitted to Atlanta Medical Center. Little did she know that what the doctor would discover would turn her world upside down and reveal a truth far more sinister than she could have imagined. When the medical technicians performed a brain scan on Nicole, they made a shocking discovery. A dark mark was visible at the back of her skull, a small metallic shard that shouldn't have been there. And after consulting with multiple doctors and nurses, they arrived at a chilling conclusion. The wound above Nicole's eye wasn't caused by a shard of glass as she had been led to believe. The physical evidence painted a very different and far more disturbing picture. Yes, Nicole and Jerrontae had been arguing in the car that night, but there was no crash. Instead, during the heated exchange, Jerrontae had pulled out a handgun and shot Nicole in the face. The black mark on the scan was, in fact, a lodged deep within her brain. Realizing that his attempt to kill Nicole had failed, the abusive boyfriend panicked. He rushed to his mommy for help, throwing his severely injured girlfriend into his car while hastily concocting a story to explain her injuries. His only hope was that if Nicole regained consciousness, she wouldn't remember the gun in her peripheral vision, or the deafening sound of it firing next to her head. And unfortunately for Nicole, the caused enough damage to her brain that she couldn't challenge her attacker's fabricated story. Jerrontae believed he had caught a lucky break and resolved to let Nicole continue living, none the wiser to the true events of that night. And after she left his mother's house, Nicole attributed her deteriorating mental condition to a severe concussion, never suspecting the horrifying truth. And it wasn't until the Atlanta Police Department detectives arrived to question her about the in her head that Nicole's world truly began to unravel. She was as baffled as they were, insisting that there must have been some mistake. Nicole recounted the story of the argument and the supposed crash, but it took time before she could come to terms with the real story reflected in her medical charts. The authorities then turned their attention to the suspected gunman. Jerrontae admitted to being present during what he still referred to as an accident, but clung to his original story. He elaborated on his lies, painting Nicole as a hysterical alcoholic who had gone into a frenzy during their argument. According to his account, she had scraped the car against a gate and other vehicles before finally crashing into a tree. He even had the audacity to claim that it was Nicole who had refused to go to the hospital, despite his alleged advice to seek medical attention. However, once again, the physical evidence told a very different tale. There was no proof of a crash occurring in the manner Jerrontae described. Nicole's injuries were inconsistent with his account. She had no whiplash, no seatbelt, no injuries, and it seemed highly improbable that a shard of glass could have embedded itself so deeply above her eye. What her injuries did suggest, however, was a single wound to the head. And it's worth noting that while such an injury is generally quite detrimental to one's health, it's not always as immediately fatal as movies and video games might lead us to believe. This misconception about the lethality of headshots is widespread, often reinforced by urban legends or exaggerated stories. Even popular culture contributes to this misunderstanding. At this point, the case had devolved into a he said, she said situation. Jerrontae maintained his story about the car crash, while Nicole had irrefutable evidence in the form of a lodged in her brain. Unsurprisingly, the authorities sided with Nicole, and a warrant was issued for Jerrontae's arrest in July of 2017. Unfortunately, Jerrontae managed to evade capture and went on the run for the next year and a half. It wasn't until an anonymous tip came in through Crime Stoppers that law enforcement was able to track down the fugitive. In January 2019, they located him hiding out in a house in College Park, Atlanta. The Atlanta Metro Major Offender Task Force, a joint venture between local police and the FBI, descended upon the suburban neighborhood. Jerrontae, unwilling to surrender peacefully, initiated a 2-hour standoff with the SWAT team. Unlike his victim, the boyfriend of the year was savvy enough to avoid taking a himself and eventually surrendered. When officers entered the house, they found him cowering in the attic. Jerrontae was charged with a litany of offenses: aggravated battery, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, the possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. These charges were added to an already hefty criminal record. It was later revealed that Jerrontae had 13 prior arrests to his name, including a 2010 conviction for sexual battery. When the case went to trial later that year, a guilty verdict seemed all but inevitable. Nevertheless, Jerrontae's beleaguered defense lawyer, Ed Adams, gave it his best shot. His argument hinged on the fact that since the fragment in Nicole's brain was too deeply embedded to be safely extracted and examined, there was no definitive proof of what it actually was. Adams later told an online news outlet they just did an x-ray and it looked like a but there was no certain proof that it was actually a. Now, while this defense strategy might seem clever on the surface, attempting to introduce a sliver of reasonable doubt, it ultimately fell flat. The prosecution countered by revealing that Nicole's own pistol had been stolen shortly before the incident, and Jerrontae knew where she kept it. Furthermore, during a phone call with a relative discussing the incident, dummy Jerrontae had shouted, "It was her gun though," a statement that seemed more incriminating than exculpatory. In September 2019, the jury found Jerrontae guilty on all counts. The serial abuser was sentenced to 30 years, 25 years to be served behind bars, with the final 5 years on probation. It was a satisfying conclusion to an otherwise horrific story. In summing up this outlandish case for the press, Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard Jr. sought to emphasize how depressingly commonplace such incidents actually are. He stated, "This case serves as a horrifying example of the kinds of incidents we investigate and prosecute on a daily basis. Domestic violence victims do not deserve to endure the pain and suffering that results from these violent incidents that, in some cases, lead to senseless and tragic deaths." Now, while death wasn't the outcome for Nicole, it's deeply troubling that the situation escalated to such an extreme before she received the help she desperately needed. During the trial, numerous friends came forward to testify about the black eyes and bruises they had witnessed on Nicole over the years, as well as Jerrontae's violent temper. This raises the haunting question: why did it take a to the skull before Nicole could escape her abusive situation? All too often, victims of domestic abuse don't have their stories heard in court until after abusers have claimed their lives or attempted to do so. As a result of this horrific incident, Nicole will continue to suffer from the effects of Jerrontae's abuse for the rest of her life. The bullet remains too deep for surgeons to safely remove it without a risk of fatal complications. That small fragment of metal will remain where it is, a grimly ironic reminder of an attack that is still absent from her memory. Perhaps, in a twisted way, the memory loss is a small mercy. If one had to endure being in the head by a trusted partner, maybe it's better not to remember the horrifying details of such a betrayal. As for Jerrontae, you will have plenty of time, 25 years to be exact, to reflect on the events of that day. By the time he's released, he might hope that the rest of the world will have forgotten he ever existed. However, for Nicole and countless other survivors of domestic violence, the scars, both physical and emotional, serve as a constant reminder of the battles they fought and the strength they found to survive. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comment section. This is one of the wildest cases I've ever heard. Do you guys think when Jerrontae gets out, he's going to come looking for her to finish what he started? What do you guys think? I feel like people like this are just horrible, evil, demonic people, and they will stop at nothing to ruin someone's life. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. If you guys are new to my channel, make sure you guys like, subscribe, leave a comment for me. Let me know what you guys think of this story in the comment section, because this is a wild one. But anyway, guys, be safe, be good.